Happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary. And we have our special guest,
Yeah.
Ryan Hahn.
We do.
El
There's
Presidente.
Happy to be here.
El Presidente.
Yes.
He was right on time, too, wasn't he?
I was so on time.
Yes. No, today's a big day. 8 years. 8 years since our first service.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
It's fun, going back to like the Facebook memories, those pop up.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you see what we were posting
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
8 years ago. Wild.
No, it's one of those things that feels forever ago, but also like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. Like, I can remember so much about those early days. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me is, everybody's experience planting churches is different. The statistics say that 50% only make it 1 year and 20% make it 5 years. But I feel like GraceHill, there's been some blood, sweat, and tears, but also it's been fun. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't been that hard. God has really blessed it. And it's incredible.
I'm glad that you said that.
People were like, oh man, when you do a building project and when you raise money, it's going to be the worst and you're going to want to quit. And I didn't feel that way going through that. Mm-hmm. And people are like, when you plant a church, it's going to be, gut wrenching and it's going to take your family away. And I was like, I haven't experienced that. Mm-hmm. My family has grown closer through this. My family loves coming, and is part of everything. And so I just think we've had a really blessed experience in this. And we recognize that that's not everyone's, but it's incredible.
That's a great way to put it, though. When something goes pretty smoothly overall, especially when there's some people who are like, you get a lot of those people are saying, well, watch this, or, it's probably coming, You really feel like God has paved the way.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it feels like. I was saying this to one of my kids, the truer you are to the path that he wants you to be on, the simpler things are.
True.
The easier things are.
That's true.
And we, sometimes we zig and zag across that line, but that's how it feels with GraceHill, for sure.
Well, I think a huge part of that, it has been the leadership of Ryan.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible. And so, it's fun to have him on today. And so, Ryan, what do you remember from starting 8 years ago?
Boy.
And what have you seen over the last 8 years?
So much.
So 8 years ago when we started this thing, and then over the last 8 years, what are some of your favorite things, favorite moments, biggest memories? Mm-hmm. Let's just, because some of these people weren't a part of this at all. True. So what are some of the behind the scenes of all this?
I think even before we even started, just when we were still at Divine Shepherd and part of a mission development team and looking at what this mission could look like in Omaha before we even landed on what the plant was, it was one of those things, and I tell this story all the time in Starting Point, but it's just I was just getting more involved at the church I was at and loved the church and did so much for my family and for me that I just wanted to make that one better. I didn't understand the idea, this concept of church planting and why we would go start something new, So I was not a very good leader to start with. And so it was kind of a little bit of a apprehension, on leading a group to do something like this. Mm-hmm. There was not really, I don't think there was podcasts at all back then, but there was, CDs. And so somebody gave me a CD. I think it was an Andy Stanley sermon. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who gave it to me, but it was very convicting. And at that point, it was talking about church planting and reaching more people and this idea of multiplication. And I never really thought about it that way. It was always addition. Let's invite some people to our church, but if you add churches, then you're going into multiplication versus addition. And so that just started to resonate with me. And then that this would be the most important thing that I probably do in my life. And I do think it has been, right? I could look back and look at jobs and all sorts of stuff, and this has been the most important thing that God ever has put in front of me. And I'm thankful that I was convicted and went in 100% with faith and obedience. And so that had been my kind of just my fallback through this whole thing. I just need to be faithful and obedient. And if we do those things, we can take the narrow path. And it's been that way, right? And so I'm just thankful that I've been a part of it from the start, and that there's so many people that were came together. You know, it was never a one person thing. It was my family and 6 other families, you know, and finding the right pastor at the right time as well. Like, it's amazing to look back.
I think that's the biggest thing that I see is God's hand all over it.
Yeah.
Like the right people at the right time with the right place,
Mm-hmm.
right plan. Because, I mean, you know, like we started with 7 families. And each one of those voices had an important role to play in dreaming up this church. You know, and it's interesting because some of those people aren't in leadership anymore.
Yep.
You know, like, but they were there at that right time, at that right place to
Yeah.
put in their voice and their input, you know, and so that's just so interesting. And throughout GraceHill's history, it's been that way with staff people, with leaders, with
Right.
the board, with, you know, bringing the Taylors on, you know, and Greg, you know, I think of his role as a treasurer at the very beginning, how huge that was. Because, I mean, that was daunting. To take the reins of something, you have no idea what kind of revenue is going to come in, what kind of, you know, like to try and build a budget out of that, to try and, you know, and yeah, I just think of, you know, those early days were pretty fun as we had those 7 families dreaming up the church. And we got together every Wednesday and, you know, just more things to work through and talk about. And I remember like, I mean, like some of the fun stories, because when I think of GraceHill, like I think of family, like, and family has like these shared memories, you know. I remember when we lost little Charlie, Aaron Goldsmith. I remember when we lost him at that meeting. We lost him in Divine Shepherd for like a good 20 minutes. Like we were getting ready to like seriously call people. And he had locked himself in a closet but wasn't saying a word. It was just sitting in the dark. Like it was crazy. I remember those early parades we did. I remember those. Oh, they were so hot.
Oh, and we were right in the back of that trailer.
Oh my gosh, they were so
In the
hot. We did that Miller parade and it was like over 100.
brutal.
And Matt Mueller was in that Chewbacca. And like he took his head off at the end, and like his face was like blood red, and like we were like, "You have heat stroke, son. You need to sit down."
Gatorade.
Yes, but yeah, then we had to drive all the kids in the trailer, the hot trailer back, and yeah, I think of those early days. But I remember our first service, and I remember, you know, this day 8 years ago, I went out onto the porch at Noah's. That was where we were at. And like, I was losing it because I was like, okay, this is it. Like, is somebody going to show up or not? You know, like, is this going to, you know, and I just remember Joe grabbed me and she took me out on that porch and she was like, all right. And she just started praying over me and I just lost it because I was like, you know, she could tell I was just like, you know, trying to micromanage everything. Like, you know, like everything has to be perfect. And part of her prayer was just like, God, just, you know, just let him relax. Just let him be. Like, let him enjoy this, you know? And I remember we're in the middle of the praying, and all of a sudden, like, 2 arms come around us and just start hugging us. And it was Sheila. And she just goes, I know this is a private moment, but I saw you too, and I couldn't help it. And I was just like, and I just remember this sense of, like, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, we're good.
Yeah.
Like, this is family. We're good, you know? And yeah, those beginning days were fun, man. You know, like, I remember we had one service, and people would stay for like 45 minutes afterwards, you know, just hanging out and talking. And I remember the first time, like, I really was like, we're going to make it, like, was Christmas. Because and of course, God gives us roller coasters. But, you know, we launched in September. And so, you know, we had seen some people come and stuff like that. And then it was Christmas. And I was like, all right, Christmas Eve, we're doing 2 services. You know, like, we're going to see a bunch of people come. And everyone came to that first service and nobody came to the second service. And at that point, you know, like, I remember Johnny, because you had just gone back to Divine Shepherd. And so we had Johnny. And I remember the second service, there were 0 people. It was just the elder who had signed up to be there and the hospitality person who had signed up to be there. Those were the only 2 people. And Johnny was like, so do you want us to just start cleaning up? And then Mark Kicker was the elder. Mark Kicker was like, I haven't heard the service yet. He's like, do it, man. And I remember smiling at him and going, he's right.
Yeah.
I said, Johnny, let's do it. And Johnny and Courtney were kind of like, you're serious. Like, we're going to do all 4 songs. We're going to do this whole service for Mark.
one guy.
And it was the Getzes.
Okay.
and he was like, we're going to do that all for them, the hospitality person. And I was like, yeah, we are. Let's do it, man. And so we did. We did the whole service with, and I preached, and they sat right up front, and we did the whole thing. And I remember Christmas Day, we were going to have a Christmas Day service. Mm-hmm. And we had kind of debated that because not a lot of people of our group went to a Christmas Day. So we were like, let's do something different. We'll do pajamas and stuff like that. And I remember, like, after going home and telling Joe nobody showed up to the second service, I was like, tomorrow morning is going to be a disaster. Like, it is going to be a disaster. And, like, I had just a pit in my stomach of just, like, it's going to be another service of showing up, nobody there. And so we get there, and there's cars in the parking lot. And I remember hopping out in my pajamas, and everyone was looking to see, did other people show up in pajamas? Because I'm not getting out if, like, and I remember we did our church service, and it was awesome. We did it our style. And then I remember it was Christmas morning, and people stayed for like 30, 40 minutes afterwards. Like, to just, what'd you guys open? And every kids were sitting around having, hot cocoa and cookie. And I remember standing at the door because I was going to greet people as they left. I remember just standing there and looking at the whole room, and like the way the light was coming in, and it was just like, it was like one of those like scenes in a movie of like panning back and just like hearing the laughter and I was like, we built a family. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody's rushing home on Christmas Day. Yeah, nobody's rushing home. Like, everybody's like being a family together, and I was like, we did it. Like. And that was just like the roller coaster of the high and low, and I still get choked up at that. Like, it was a beautiful day. And yeah, Grace Hill's had some incredible stories of success, like by all measures, of growth and all that. But I think some of the small little family stories like that are the things that I hold on to most. Those mornings of having to clean up at Noah's, because we had the staff quit at least 4 or 5 times while we were there.
Yeah, the cleaning staff.
Yeah, and we'd have to text everybody at 5:30 in the morning as we showed up, like, it's a mess, come and help. I mean, there were I remember 1 or 2 Sundays where we had to keep all the doors open, and we went down the street to Hy-Vee to buy air fresheners.
Several times I've gone to Hy-Vee, get Lysol and air fresheners.
Yes, because there's just stale beer on the ground and throw up in the, like, it's just, I mean, some of those early days were just crazy.
Who had to unclog the drain? That was a funny story.
Oh, Matt Mueller did that. Yeah, like, there was an awful smell coming from the kitchen, and the drain was all clogged up, and it was just disgusting. Food, throw up, whatever. But it's full to the top.
Yeah, I think he said baked beans is what it ended up being.
Whatever it was.
Pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
The smell coming out of that was awful. And I just remember it's like 6 a.m, and I come around the corner in there, and everybody was trying to clean everything, and I was like, there was a mess in the kitchen, and I didn't know who was going to take care of it, but I knew I couldn't because I got a gag reflex.
Yeah.
And I remember coming around the corner 6 a.m. Matt Mueller is in his pajamas, and he is elbow deep into this disgusting sludge, and he is pulling out chunks of stuff and throwing it in the trash. And I was like, oh, Matt, that is so... And he was like, I have no gag reflex. And he's just grabbing out this stuff to get the drain clear. I mean, it was crazy stuff that we got to experience. But Noah's was a great first spot for us. It was. And I mean, that's a God story. Mm-hmm. Like, we wanted to go to a school. Mm-hmm. That was where all church plants went. Yeah. And like, we tried every school, we got shut down, and it was Matt Reiser who like 4 or 5 times was like, hey, they're building this thing in my parking lot at work. Mm-hmm. Hey, they're building this thing in my parking lot. Finally, we're like, okay, let's go check it out, And yeah, we got to get in right on the ground floor of that. Like, I think it was only open a couple months before we got in. Yeah. And that was a beautiful place to start.
I don't know any church startup that could get a nicer place.
No, the big windows.
So
and
nice.
It was beautiful.
It's beautiful. But I think also thinking about, we've talked about the ease, how it's felt easy, the whole way through. And yet, how many times have we moved?
Well, and that's a good point.
that
it
would
felt easy, but it
destroy-
wasn't easy.
Could
and
not
I
have
think
been.
I think it was the I think it was the leadership, and I think it was the people that people just knew, like, all right, no matter what, we're making this work. You know, like we'll do what needs to happen. But yeah, like we had our ups and downs like anybody, but we just kind of moved
Just
along.
weathered it well.
Just kept going. Yeah.
I mean, I think of all the times at Noah's we tried to do outdoor events. They were all disasters. Like, I mean, we had that one time where we're out there. I think it was a fall bash or something.
Yeah.
We had bounce houses and stuff.
Yeah, that
and,
tall bounce house.
and all of a sudden, like 40-mile-an-hour ice cold wind hits, you know, and oh man, and like things are blown away and stuff like that. You know, rain, snow, all kind. We never had good luck with outdoor stuff, but we tried it all. And but yeah, Noah's was a great. That was where I baptized my dad. You know, was at Noah's, and yeah, I mean, so many great memories there. And I think of that picture we have of the dream team with our shirts out in front of Noah's. You know, it's on our
It's a
website
great picture,
now.
yeah.
And seeing where all the kids, their
They're
ages
so little.
and stuff, they're so little.
I think that's one of the cooler things is seeing, like, literally how the families have grown.
Yeah.
You know, not only in like as they've aged, but also in number. You know, it's. I think that's one of the blessings of that place is how it is a family, and then watching that family grow.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, yeah.
What a big blessing of it, I think, just for like thinking about my family and everyone's families, like to have your kids be a part of something like that,
Yeah.
you know, and it doesn't have to even be as big as starting a brand new church. Like it just proves to me, like, get your family involved in serving and serving the Lord in different ways. And it's just because that's in their DNA now. Like for my kids, that's in their DNA. Like they were a part of something like that. And I think it's shaped them dramatically, even when they were real little, like that they still hold
For
this,
Yeah.
you know, the drawings that they would do in kids' church or at school, and they're designing the church, and they're,
Yeah.
you know, and all those kind of things. Like,
Yeah, Nora had that little drawing of the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely see it as their church.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I think it's going to be special, you know, like the day your girls get married at GraceHill, you know, and you know, to just, hey, truly these kids grew up at this church. This is they helped shape this thing. And, you know, like, and to be a part of all those special days and see that happen is going to be really special. But yeah, those days at Noah's, like, that was fun, and it was exciting, and the big decisions to go to 2 services, you know, and yeah, like, but
the sound of those chairs.
oh, I forgot they every
Dude.
time you stood up, it was like,
Oh,
yeah,
my
it was
goodness.
awful.
Yeah, that was like an echo chamber. I
It
mean,
was.
as beautiful as the space that was, and as like accommodating as it was,
The sound,
it's terrible for sound.
Yeah.
yeah,
Horrible.
that
Yeah.
was the downside.
But yet, you
but
know,
it worked.
yeah,
It worked,
yeah.
and yeah, those early days were a lot of fun, and the church grew. And that was exciting to see, just like the steady growth, and then all of a sudden we find out they're going under, and we had to jump to Tiburon, and we were trying to figure that out. Did you realize we moved in January 2020? Like COVID hit 3 months later.
Right before.
I thought it was because we were trying to figure out the timeline yesterday at the office. And I thought we went in January 2019 because I thought we were at Tiburon like a whole year before COVID hit. We were only there 3 months before everything shut down. Which, I mean, once again, like, you move, and then 3 months in, like,
Yeah.
you're having to do, what, 10 tables throughout the whole room? I mean, we had that whole series of, you know, where you had to have an assigned table.
Yep.
Yep. And we could only have, like, 15 tables in the whole room. And it was like, okay, you're at table 17. Don't talk to anybody, you know, move over there, you know, that's you, you know, and all that. But we were so fortunate because we were over in Sarpy. Like, we were just across into Sarpy because
Yeah,
if we had stayed at
Different rules.
if we had different rules, we were allowed to meet.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if we had stayed at Noah's, we would have been shut down during that whole time.
Right.
We wouldn't have been able to do anything online only. And I think our church, there are the people that did stay home, but I think a lot of people did want to get together, needed that time to
sure.
get together.
Yeah.
I still remember our first sermon series. It was Fan or Follower, and you made that music mix of all those like jock jams. Do you remember this? Because I remember, it was like all these different jock jams of Fan or Follower.
Yeah.
Because we did like the first 7 weeks. And I remember somebody posting, like somebody was like, I'm looking for a local church. And somebody said, oh, GraceHill. And somebody posted on there, I was there and they played Who Let the Dogs Out. I don't think that's a good church or something. I remember reading that. And I was like, oh, man.
No, we didn't want you anyway.
Yeah. If you don't like Who Let the Dogs Out, come on now. But yeah, I remember that first series. That was fun. I remember the first sermon I preached on was the mustard seed. And so that was my first Sunday sermon.
I was nervous that day. I was not.
Oh,
I never feel that way, but I was really, really nervous.
yeah. Oh, so was I.
I think I was more nervous leading up to it. Like I was nervous to like commit to a date. Remember, like how soon should we? Should we do it here? Like, because we probably could have gone a little earlier.
Yeah,
but
we
like
could've.
all God's timing, like
Yeah.
I think it worked out. But I don't know why. I don't know why it was. We could have gone earlier. I remember being like we were in Florida one time. We were like, I think we can go sooner. And we're like, well, what about this and that? And I don't know how we ended up on that date, but
I don't know. I think it was we wanted to wait until after Labor Day, but we wanted to have like 1 or 2 practice services first.
Yeah, we didn't want to do it in the summer because that's not a good time to start anything.
But I mean, like, I don't think people realize all the thought that went into, 9 months of planning for that first Sunday.
Yeah. We did a lot of planning even for like the open house over there. Remember all the meetings we had and like, here's what's going to happen in this room and in this room.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
That was
People
cool.
walked
That was
room
cool
to
too.
room,
Yeah.
and to check it out. But it was so hard because, you have this group of 7 families and you're dreaming this up and you're like, okay, this will be a good idea. And we had so many creative things that we put into place at the beginning. But then it's like, is anybody going to like it? You're like kind of putting yourself out there like, here's my big dream. And like, are people going to step on it or are people going to go like, oh, cool, that's my dream too. Like, I want to see that. And so it was really nerve wracking of like, and I remember being a little defensive in the beginning, like there were some people that came over from Divine Shepherd to decide like whether they're going to come or not. They'd be like, well, we didn't like that you did this. And I remember just being like, how dare you? like, don't critique us, I mean, because it's hard. It's like it's your baby out there,
It's your baby,
you've been dreaming this up for 9 months. It's hard. But yeah, it was special. But then the move to Tiburon, I mean, that was something to have to just pack up and leave in a month's notice. And I remember we left like because we left right at the end of December. And so our first service in January was there. I remember Johnny and I were the last ones walking out after, 3 years. And I remember just looking at the building and it was just like, this has been our
sad.
home. It was actually really emotional. Like, man, like we just lost our only home. Like,
well, and not to mention, you sort of get into that mindset of we make this change because, like everything in Omaha is fairly close, but that is a distance to cover.
That's a big
from where we started to where Tiburon.
And we weren't moving because we wanted to.
Right.
Yeah. It was forced upon you.
Right.
You don't know if people are going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Although I know that there's a pretty good contingency of South, like Gretna and South Millard people who were like, yeah, this is better.
But
actually.
I mean, like we kept pretty much everybody in that move. Like it was a big drive, but
and then to go right from that to COVID.
Right. And then to go to COVID. And that was hard. I mean, like we were a small staff and to try and keep things afloat Johnny did do a great, I mean, that guy, he worked hard during that season because he produced all the, like not only did he lead the music, but then he would come and, edit and produce and,
Well, and didn't
create.
for a while there, didn't you guys roll from the chapel at Divine Shepherd?
We recorded Easter from the chapel. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, we shot some
I
of
knew
them
there
from
was
the
some-
chapel.
Yeah, maybe some
Yeah,
kids'
because we couldn't get
messages.
into Tiburon. Yeah.
Kids' messages.
So during the couple, we shot kids' messages
Yeah.
during the week, and but yeah, we would shoot when everything was shut down. But then
Yeah.
when we could go back to like partial, spread out, we went back to, and that was the thing. Tiburon let us. I mean, they didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were just really fortunate in that we had that spot that we could get back together. And then once everything kind of was cleared, it was neat that, we shut down everything online. I mean, that was a big decision that we made for like 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were like, hey, we have got to get back in person. That's who we are. Like,
Yeah.
it's vital to who our church is.
Yeah.
And it was great to get people coming back. And I think that was one of the things at GraceHill that we were fortunate with was when things were partial back, we could have the masked and unmasked service, and that was really special. Okay, if you want to be masked, come to the early service.
Sure.
We'll clean everything. Everything's, sterile. And then the second service is unmasked, and people that we were able to, I think that's one of the beauties of GraceHill is that we try and meet people
Be accommodating.
where they're at, like, okay, you're here, you're there. Like, okay, we got a spot for that.
Well, you want people to feel free to worship freely,
right.
and safely, which is something, by the way, that we all take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, true.
Because there are people throughout this world who are unable to do that. But you do want to make it very, very welcoming, and also put out the message that, hey, we care about your safety, and nobody really knows what's going on. So,
Yeah.
to that point, here's what we're doing.
I didn't ask you guys, what are some of your favorite memories of Noah's?
Probably that pneumatic stage.
Oh, yes. And it would make that
We're like, oh, this
noise.
is amazing. We have a stage. That's
Yeah.
great. There's a platform. That's important. We need to have a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd make that loud noise. Yeah.
Yeah, right in the middle of service.
Yeah.
I just thought it was super welcoming. I just thought the way it was designed, and granted it wasn't very big, but we didn't need it super big at first. But I just love the days that we'd have like a speaker outside, music playing in the tent, and the greeters,
Yeah.
and the doors were open through that hallway, and it was just beautiful. And
Yep.
the light was coming in, and just people felt, I think, welcomed there and comfortable. And I just loved when we had one service that we'd all just stay there and
Yes.
hang out. I think that's my favorite part. It's like, and that just to me was a big indicator that we were creating this community, right? We wanted
Yeah.
a thriving community, and that was happening. I also love the early mornings. Like I think back now, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that again, but like every Sunday, the early morning, getting there, and just with those people, like you kind of had a bond with
Yeah.
those people. And
Oh, the setup team, like, I do. It's funny, like people like Dave, Jack, and stuff, like they miss that because they'd get there at 5:30, 6, and we'd set up for an hour and a half, and there was like this camaraderie to it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
and having to solve problems, there's something
Oh,
to
yeah.
that, like being a problem solver and helping out, and it's like it makes you feel a little more invested.
Some might say it prepares you to be a business owner to some degree.
Maybe, yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Yeah. You know that it's, that everybody has to come together and no matter what's up, like this has got to happen, And I know there were some days like just with like technological challenges and
Oh,
difficulties.
yeah, we had
and be like,
those.
oh man, this is not going to work. But in all reality, like it could be you just speaking loudly in a room full of people
Right.
without any kind of tech.
oh yeah, we had
without a
days where
screen
tech
and
messed up.
just-
We had
yeah.
days where all kinds of
But I love that we could be that church too, where like it could just be,
yeah.
you could just
In a
be
living
strumming a
room.
guitar or playing a piano, and
Yeah.
nothing's working, and you're just or in a living room or whatever it might be. Like we could just be
And
us.
One of the things we had that consultant come in just a couple weeks ago to do to help us with our updated bylaws, and he pulled me aside. He was like, "You have the best call I've ever seen. Like my job, and because he was like, you know, what issues are you dealing with? Like, what are people complaining about? I was like, nothing, you know, like, and I think it's because of how flexible people had to be at the beginning. It was like, if you want to be a part of this, like, you might show up and we have no video. You might show up and we have, you know, like we're not gonna make a big deal out of that stuff. Like we're just gonna go with it. And I think our people really do have a heart of just flexibility, of just like, all right, well, like we'll go with it.
Yeah.
Like, cause that stuff doesn't matter. That's not why we're here. You know, like we're here for this, you know, we're here for Jesus. We're here for each other. And I know pastors, I got friends, like when we go down to that conference in February, like every week they're getting emails of like, I don't like that you did this. I don't like this. The sound is too, you know, da 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 da. And like, I don't get any of those emails. None. Nobody on our staff does. Like, people are just like, all right. Like,
I would think if anybody would get those, it'd be me.
Well, yeah, but no.
We don't like that song.
Yeah. I'm the only one that complains about your song
I know,
choices.
and I don't care.
I know, but I say it
That
every
works out
time.
well then.
Yeah. What about Tiburon? The 2 years we were there. What maybe is there a moment or a memory that you remember from there?
It felt like an upgrade because they like actually had staff and
Right. They would
it
actually
was
clean.
There was like tablecloths.
Oh, it
and, like,
was.
you'd spill and they'd come clean up the table.
That was
The
nice.
staff was good.
Tiburon was good for us except for the kids.
Yeah, we didn't have anything but that main room. And a
Worship
hallway.
wise, it was great.
Yeah.
Big room, clean, everything worked. They would set it up for us, and like we just had to set up our tech, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the kids were out in that lobby. That didn't work. I think of when I think of the Tiburon days, it wasn't actually at Tiburon, but we were doing youth group at Divine Shepherd still, and I just remember the bat days because Divine Shepherd has bats, like bad
Bats in the Belfry.
Yes, and there were multiple nights at youth group where I forget what season it would be. I think it's fall is when they would start coming out, or no,
Seems
it's summer. Maybe. But there were just multiple nights that we had bats flying through the building, and like kids are running and screaming, and like we would have to, like, I can remember like 3 or 4 of them, and they were just awesome. Because I remember Dave Jack was there one night, and we were walking out, and we were in the big lobby of Divine Shepherd, and there was like one bat swooping at the front door, and there was like another bat like in the lobby, and the kids are screaming and ducking and running, you know. Johnny's just standing in the middle videotaping it, you know, and the chapel doors are open, and you know, bats are diving at kids, you know, stuff, and they're screaming and running and yelling, and all of a sudden the 2 bats like dive into the chapel, and Dave Jack runs and he slams both the doors like all dramatic, and all the kids start chanting, Dave, 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 Dave. Oh my gosh. That is still one of my favorite moments. Is all the kids, Dave, Dave. But yeah, we had a dead one once under the couch, and I think it was Aaron Engelman that thought it was a fake one. So he like picked it up and he was like making it dance.
Way. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and he was like, and I was like, that's a real bat. That's a real dead bat.
Oh,
you are touching a dead bat.
My gosh.
Yeah. But when it got in the youth room, because that's a small room.
Yeah.
Like we had one in the youth room going once. And like, yeah, kids are ducking, running, screaming, yelling. And like, we're trying to, you know, like shoo it out you know, that was like 15 minutes. And then like, we get all the kids back in the room finally. And it's like, so where were we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
So Jesus.
yeah. But those are fun days.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to golf a lot more. When we
Right.
were
I thought I was going to have brunch there.
Yes.
Like after church, go into the restaurant.
We didn't take
and
advantage
play
of that.
golf and no.
Well,
Never.
I think you were exhausted
Well, yeah, because we had
because
to
like you were getting there
sit
at
down.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and then you had to tear it all down. And
That too.
I remember the icy days there because that was a giant
That was
hill.
steep.
Yeah, and I remember I wiped out that one time because Vicar Ben was there, and I forget about Vicar Ben sometimes.
I don't think I ever met him.
Yeah,
That was he was during that time that I was not
you were
there.
you were out. Yeah,
Yeah.
But I remember I parked and I was walking up, and I just ate it, like feet in the air, like ate it. And he saw me, and like I'm getting up, and I get there, and it was 2 services, and like cleaning up afterwards. And I'm going to leave, and I'm like, where are my keys? Couldn't find my keys. And so I'm looking everywhere for my keys. And finally, I was like, Ben was like, man, maybe you left them in your car. And I go, and right where I fell in the middle of the parking lot are my keys just sitting there. And like, we've had 2 services. Cars have been driving everywhere. No
Still
one
there.
drove over them. No one. And I was like, whoo, good thing I can get home. Yeah. So, but.
I remember the Sunday we had the Dream Big reveal there with the kids
Yep.
flipping over the numbers. That was a big
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I mean, that
goodness.
was
Jessica Covey did such a good job setting
did,
that up. Yeah.
That was a
Yes.
pretty big moment
Yep. That
in our
was.
history. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make you think, not looking back, but looking forward, just how things will look in another 8 years.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, you're skipping ahead. We're not there yet.
Well-
We got to talk about the future next.
Okay. We're going to talk about the present?
Well, yeah, where we're at now.
Okay.
Because that was a cool story, how we got that CrossFit. And then the day we go to get the key to get in,
Yeah.
they're moving out next door. We just walk over and we're like, hey,
Meet our new
insurance
neighbors
company?
and, hey, where are you going?
Yeah. They're like, we're leaving.
Like, why is this a bad spot? We're like, uh-oh. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they keep throwing these medicine balls against our wall. It's so loud. We're like, okay, well, just did you know that they're not coming back? And
Yeah.
That was actually, I remember all of that vividly because I got a call from Jason Flippin.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I know you're not on staff at GraceHill, but I know that you know them and you care about it.
Were you not on staff?
No, I was still working in software.
When did you came on before we
I
moved?
came on 3 years ago, almost.
But you came on before we moved into the honeysuckle.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But that was all. He called me and he's like, I think there's this place that's going to work great. And I think that we can do it on a shoestring budget and I can go all in, but I don't want to overstep my bounds.
Yeah.
And I know him well enough. I knew him well enough. I'm like, okay. So I connected him with Ryan.
Yep.
Right away. And I'm like, okay, you guys get this figured out. And
he did.
he delivered in a huge way. And of course he knew of the space already.
Yeah.
Because it was a gym that he was familiar with.
Yeah.
And that guy's got an eye for things. I talked to him yesterday actually, because he's got a good eye for space and also just structure and logistics. And he went in there. He's like, all this. And of course I'm going, you got to put a bathroom over there? How can you do that? Rip a bathroom out over there and you got to put a bathroom over here? How's that going to work? He's like, it's not a big deal. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was incredible. He single-handedly got us into honeysuckle, and that was incredible. And that space, I mean, if you see the transformation from what it was to what it is, and just how we've utilized it, I mean, we have maxed that thing out. I mean, now on Wednesdays we're having to send kids down to the daycare and people over at the bank and people at the library. I mean,
It's crazy.
We're using every space we can, and but yeah, it's been incredible to see the growth and to see so many new families and
But the same thing goes for a move like that, because again,
it's a big move,
we went from Elkhorn to Gretna and then back to Elkhorn,
right?
Farther,
Way up Elkhorn,
farther.
yeah.
Just to be a little trepidatious about the whole thing, but it didn't feel that way. It might have felt that way to you guys, but I was like, this is going to be great and awesome just to have our own space in which we can grow, and the growth has been phenomenal. And then again, I don't want to jump ahead.
You can now,
But and then also for then the land in the building to be within that proximity.
Yeah.
Because I think there probably would have been the same types of concern, maybe different concerns, but going from Gretna then to Elkhorn, where we're going to be in Avenue 1, to the point of, okay, this isn't a temporary space for us. This is like home base going forward. Is this the right space? Is this the right spot? Is this the right location? But to have this, the past couple of years to be within close proximity and to grow that way is really special.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things had God's hand in that too, right? Everything that had to come together for how the locations worked out. I think even with us, I'm trying to think of what switched with us as the leadership team too, like to step out bigger in faith and take bigger risks for God.
Right.
Like we have a big God that can do big things, and we always, starting a church on its own is a big, risk. But at some point we decided let's go for it, because I think we were pretty conservative.
Yeah.
For
Very
quite
much
a
so.
while.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And like you can look at that and say, well, thank God we were. Mm-hmm. Thank God.
Yeah,
the
that we
leadership
didn't
was
jump
very
into something too soon.
because
Yep.
because there were other, you guys well know, but there were other opportunities that were sort of like on a platter put in front of us that would have been
Wrong.
just probably
Wrong.
it just would not have worked the way that it's worked.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, this new building and it's exciting that later this month we get to take everybody inside of it to bless it, and but how God brought that to us, and it's gonna be incredible next Easter, or this upcoming Easter.
Yeah,
because it was crazy. We got the date set for the golf tournament next summer. And, we were kind of looking at our city, because we wanted to make sure that, we kind of plan out those dates and stuff. And I looked at Christine and I said, you realize we'll be in the new building for our city? And she was like, you're right. It's funny to already be thinking about, we're putting stuff on the calendar that we're going to be in the new building for. That's just crazy. And it's going to change our church, I think, kind of going big picture on this now. Just GraceHill, I think it's kind of like children. I think you can always be waiting for the next season of your child's life. Oh, they're a baby now. I can't wait till they walk. I can't wait till they talk. I can't wait till they, in the next season you can always be excited for, but also there's something special about the present and then the old days too. And I think the same thing for the church, because there are times that I really miss the beginning days, where it was one service and and I knew what was happening in every single person's life, because we would stay around for 45 minutes and talk, but then there's something special about the new stage that we're in. Well, all the new families that we're seeing impacted and growing, and because I think, youth wise, as I'm in that age now with having my daughter in youth group, and I want her to have a good, a bigger youth group, lots of friends to have, because you think of those beginning days of the youth group, the Taylor boys were our first youth group.
Yeah.
It was Sam and Josh. It was just them, and and to think what the youth group's grown into. And
there could be worse youth groups, by the way.
No,
those two guys.
Yes, no, I had a lot of fun.
Of course,
we would have a lot of fun, just the three of us, and stuff. But just to see the youth group grow, and so I mean, and to see all the different skills and abilities that God brings to the family now, there's somebody at our church that can do anything, that's cool to see, and see the life transformations. Not everybody gets to see those, but I do. Of people 2 years ago that were struggling and now they're not, and see their family thriving, and see their family, and that's what you dreamed of when you came up with, who we are. We're a community of thriving families, and that's who we are, and getting to see that come to fruition, and get to be a part of that. But yeah, I don't know, closing thoughts on the future of GraceHill. And
well, maybe back to your point of, how sometimes you miss those days of having like maybe just one service and an opportunity to really spend a lot of time with a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're going to be back in that season in a big way because of the setup of that new building.
Yes.
To have I don't even
Huge
call it a
fellowship
lobby.
area.
Yeah. Huge fellowship hall where people can come early and not be right in the worship space.
Yep.
There's a huge space to be where they don't have to leave right away. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have people coming and going.
Yep.
Where they can hang out for 20, 30 minutes if they wanted to after a service, before a service, even though they don't go to the same service.
Yep.
That is incredible. Mm-hmm. I love that. And, one of the things that I think is so special about that church is how we do take a considerable amount of time to have fellowship.
Yeah.
Right in the worship space, right at the beginning of the service. Like I like having that time. I like having that time just for me, even, to connect with some folks that I wouldn't necessarily see the rest of the week. But, just to have that, it's so special to see people traverse the room and just spend time and laughing and catching up. And, like sometimes I'm like, well, just skip the first song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people
Who
would
cares?
just keep talking and
For sure.
Oh, they
It's so
talk
tight
right
in there,
through
like-
the first song.
Yeah.
Even having, because you can't get through there, you see somebody you wanted, you can wait. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's special.
It really is.
And I think that's one of my favorite things about Grace Hill is people are excited to come.
Even the kids, like,
Yeah.
I don't know what, my kids are always, they never complain, like, we have to get up for church.
Right.
They're like, oh, actually, like, I scheduled myself for work today. I'm going to go to 8:00.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they
it's
showed
just
up.
like,
yeah.
how does that happen?
Yeah.
That's great.
What about you, Ryan? As you look at the future and you look at the big picture of Grace Hill, what are some of the things you're excited for, proud of?
I'm just excited for, how God has led us to where we're at right now, because it's all the glory goes to God, and none of us, he worked through all the people, and that's what's a great memory is all the people who have stepped up at the right time, and glory goes to God. But I think we've really got something special here, and I think there's such a firm foundation of what it is that it's going to carry through to Grace Hill, and even as it gets bigger, I think we have just the right focus, and it is all focused on God and faith and obedience to Him, and just reaching more people. We want to see more people in heaven, and that's what we're all about. And as long as we stay true to that, I just think there's more and more coming, and we want to be a church that plants churches. So that season's probably not too far away either. So
Probably not.
lots of exciting things, and I think even though we can get bigger, we can keep that community feel. And there's just so many ways to do that.
Well, I think a big part of that is your leadership, because there's a couple avenues you can try and get to grow. You can try with we're going to try with attraction. We're going to try with, promotion. We're going to try with, investing so much in teaching it or music or, all that. And it was really your leadership that said, we're going to do it with relationship. Mm-hmm. We're going to grow with relationship. Yeah. That's what's going to be our connecting piece, is build a place where people meet people and build relationships. And to watch that be the driving catalyst of our growth, I don't think there's a better avenue to grow in than relationship.
Yeah.
And I believe in it. And I'll tell anybody, do this, focus on this. This is how you grow.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, because it's like an invitation works, right? But it doesn't only benefit the person who accepts the invitation. It benefits the inviter as well.
Right.
Like, it changes you if you're willing to be bold and go invite somebody to church. And once you do it once and they come,
it's contagious.
So it's such a awesome impact for everybody.
Yeah.
And to grow like this, I don't think anybody would say you could do that without mass marketing and mailers and billboards, and we don't do any of that stuff.
And we don't do any of it.
Yeah.
It's all happened because of, I think, like you said at the beginning, if you focus on the right things, God's going to do the work. Because, and I say this all the time, there are so many people that have come to our church, and I'm asking them, how did you get here? I didn't do it. Nobody, God is like, hey, if you're going to do this, I'll bless it.
Yeah.
If you're going to aim at me, I'll bless it. And I believe that the only thing that we have done to grow our church is try and be obedient to what we read.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have been blessed with such a great board, such a focused board on like, here's the right things. Here's what's worth aiming at. Here's the risk worth taking. And here's the times not to take them. You know, like God's just been very good to us.
Yeah.
And yeah, go.
I do have to say though, like I appreciate, I'm the special guest, so I get some special props, but it is definitely like you two need props too. And like, you know, I think just
right
the
people,
worship
right place.
and the message
Yeah.
and the relationships, and we're blessed with an awesome staff and an awesome leader, and you, Justin. So I think
I appreciate that.
you're great at building other people up and saying, hey, they're all part of it. And there were, but like
It is.
you know,
It's a whole team.
yeah.
And I think that's what I appreciate is I know that I'm the out front person in the face, but like I know that if this thing was built upon my skills and abilities and how far I could take it, we'd be way back there. Like God truly brought us a great team, and I think early on I knew that I would have to swallow some pride and accept some humility and say like, it's not always going to be my idea, and that's okay. Because there were multiple times that it wasn't.
It's hard.
It wasn't my idea.
That's hard though.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me.
Yeah, particularly when it's, you know, you when you're letting another idea, maybe the majority idea rule, and that doesn't line up with yours.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, but if this doesn't work,
Right.
it's going to look like
Yeah.
it's me. You know, it's
Yeah.
going to fall on me.
Totally.
You know?
It's not only you, but it's like, this is
Yeah.
your job too, right? Like you're
Right.
letting volunteers come up with
Yeah.
things that shape your job.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge at times. But I think that's the beauty of Grace Hill is if something doesn't work, we punt and we try something else, you know, and like our church has never been afraid to say, hey, that didn't work. And we haven't had many of those, but there's been a couple. And it's not like anybody like took it and rubbed my nose in it. And, you know, like, hey, that failed. How dare you? Like our church was like, I appreciated that you said that failed. Like, and it's like, well, okay. You know, like, cause I think the other big thing that our church, and this was early on your leadership, authenticity. And I think that's something that I see at Grace Hill that I'm really proud of. It's like, we are not afraid to hide who we really are.
Yeah.
And that's leadership, that's staff, that's people. Like we're okay being real. And I think that really changes things for us. So cannot wait for the next 8 years, as you said. Can't wait to see what God's doing. I pray there's a church plant or two out there, and a lot more lives being changed by Jesus. But
Yeah, in the
I
new
say
space. It's in that new space too.
Yes.
Do you daydream about that? Like even what's going to be around?
oh,
there in the
I'm
development?
excited. We were just talking about that at staff yesterday about at lunchtime hopping over and playing some pickleball.
Yeah.
You know, we can walk across the parking lot to it. I'm excited. Like, I think because I go every 2 weeks inside the building and stuff like that. Like, I already envision it, you know, like a Sunday, like what it's going to look like, a work day, what it's going to look like. And I'm excited for what's coming. Because it's not about a building, but that building is going to be huge to our ministry. Sure. Like what it's going to do for our ministry, what it's going to allow for our staff and it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
But, 8 years from now, like there's probably going to be one or two others, you know, and a growing staff and a growing family at Grace Hill. And I can't wait to see all that too.
Yeah. Raising up, continually raising up new leaders.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish Brady could have been here because that's a great example.
Yeah.
Johnny's a great example too.
Yep.
He's not on staff anymore. He's at another place, but
Yeah.
like raising up a leader.
Yep.
Brady raising up a leader. And look what those guys are doing.
Brady's doing incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And adding new staff, you know, like we're 2 weeks in on Susan and about a month and a half in on Lisa, and, you know, getting to watch that new dynamic take place is a lot of fun. So
A lot of buzz. A lot of buzz in
a
that spot.
lot of buzz. And we preached on money.
So if you're still listening,
So we didn't get into that too much, but don't love money.
That's right.
It's not your
God's
God.
not after that. He's after your heart.
God's after your heart. So, there.
There you go. Well done.
Check out the sermon.
It has its own little podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
Happy anniversary.
Happy
Happy
anniversary.
anniversary.
Yeah.
8 years.